Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for a dynamic effort lower day, but a quick reminder for those of you who watch these videos, please remember to click like down below, be greatly appreciated. Alright, I had to work with the chain setup a little bit here. The first couple sets I had to adjust after. Really didn't like my setup, and then I remembered, I think what I had done the last time I did chains. I just used some small lead chains and attached to those because these were sliding a lot. It was really becoming problematic. The biggest problem I run into, with chain deadlifts, is what do you do with the chains? When I used to sumo pull, of course, I could just put them in the middle. And part of me says, hey, maybe we need to do that a little more with the conventional and just deal with it with the shoes. But ran these a little heavier, and I ended up stopping at 8 sets because I realized my hands and everything were definitely just beat up, kind of really all I felt like I could recover from. Instead of doing the 10 sets, I did 8. I kind of wanted to do the 10, but again, I'm in a small deficit right now. So we do have to be mindful of these things on the recovery overall. But happy with the way most of it felt. It did feel fairly heavy for me for speed work. It's because I've been doing speed work so much lighter that when we do go a hair heavier, it's like, these feel kind of tough. But the training response should be good. So for those curious what I'm doing there, it's 355 plus 70 pounds of chains. And I used the stiff bar for these, which again challenges the grip a little bit more, makes the grip work a little bit harder because it's larger in diameter. So I'm using the power bar there instead of the Texas deadlift bar. But we did the 8 doubles. And again, felt like I got a good training response. I would have liked it to have moved a hair faster, but still used compensatory acceleration, pulled as hard as I could. So we still get the desired response. And afterwards, I decided to start working the good mornings back in. I know I need them. They can be a little difficult on recovery overall, if we do a lot of them, because I tend to get strong at good mornings real fast. So I decided to work them back in, just do 2 good work sets, and went with, a fairly light weight and focused on range of motion. Now, I haven't really looked at the footage yet or my range of motion, and so I'm going to be seeing it, during the voiceover here. But the goal was to just get as deep of a stretch as possible in the hamstrings, take these to a full range of motion, and I only worked with 265, but because I took these as far as I could go, the 265 felt challenging, definitely lit up my hamstrings, felt my low back. So the erectors got worked, the hamstrings got worked. And I feel like, I need a lengthened or a stretch position movement right now for my hamstrings, based upon where that deadlift missed with the 280 deadlift in comp. I feel like this will carry over quite a bit. I also feel like it'll help with my squatting again. My squats tend to go up really well when my good mornings go up. And again, I've been neglecting good mornings, haven't been doing them. So I want to work them back in, and I just have to adjust the overall volume to account for it. Same thing with the deadlifts. I'm like, I want to do some good mornings today. I need to really watch, the total volume and recovery on those deadlifts because of it. Okay? Because again, I feel like I need the good mornings. So if I need them in my training rotation, we just have to adjust volume accordingly. All right, so after the 2 sets of good mornings, I did supersets with my belt squats and my banded glute ham raises. So on the belt squats, I went ahead and went really wide. And here's the thing that I did. I've run a little phase of running these with a really narrow stance, and I had to take the weight way down to reach depth. But I went to just kind of grab one of these before I added the extra plates on just to get an idea. And I'm like, with a lighter weight on this, if I quit ego lifting, I can get to deep depth, pretty much ass to grass depth, with just lighter weight. And what I need to quit doing is quit trying to just load this as heavy as possible and then short stroking the reps and then getting to where I can't get down below parallel. Okay. Again, sort of stuff I would yell at my clients about. I have not been yelling at myself about. Okay, and as a coach, I know better. And that's the thing that we all have to remember. There are times when we have to set our egos to the side and go, what am I doing this movement for? Am I doing this as a max effort lift? Am I doing this to move the heaviest weight, or am I using this to build weak points and to hypertrophy, in which case that extra range of motion, particularly at the bottom, is going to be worth a lot, particularly for the quad development. And then if I go deep on it, what happens? I can get all the quad development I want while working other muscles. Okay, because the adductors and everything get worked better with this wider stance, and we need adductors. All right, I get more benefit, more muscle use out of this movement if I'm willing to cut the weight down to get that deeper range of motion. Okay, and you know what? It beats me up a lot less. I notice on these, I don't feel as fatigued as I did when I was going with the wide stance, and sometimes stopping a hair short of parallel just so I can get that extra 30 or 40 pounds on the machine. Okay. Save the ego lifting for the maxes, and even then, they should be smooth. Right, our max effort lifts is really where our ego needs to be, but by that same token, they need to be controlled. Okay, they need to hit the proper ranges of motion. They need to lock correctly. So again, these movements that we're doing as assistance exercises to hypertrophy everything, right, we really have to look at that. Yes, weight matters. Yes, progressive overload matters. But it can't be at the expense of control, range of motion, particularly hitting those lengthened positions that we want to hit. All right? Because we're doing this to build muscle. We're doing this to build up the weak links, to build up our primary movers, to build up stabilizers, whatever it is that we're doing them for. We need hypertrophy out of this stuff. And we need every drop of hypertrophy that we can get. So the good mornings, it's all about getting into that lengthened position on the hamstring. Okay, the belt squats, we need to be getting into that lengthened position for the quad. Glute ham raises, I stopped at 2 sets also because we did speed pulls today, which is very intensive on the posterior chain. I did the good mornings, and then we're doing banded glute ham raises. That's a lot. It's a fair amount of hamstring work. I don't want to cramp up later. So I stopped them at 2 sets. Then, of course, we did our normal 5 sets of reverse hyperextensions. And I'm almost considering with these, again, working off of Louis Simmons's recommendation to 50% of your squat, because I'm going a little heavier than what my current squat max is, even for 10s. Okay? Is this costing me a hair of range of motion? Should I be going a hair lighter and getting that control and that longest range of motion, possible within reason? It still puts tension on the muscle. I'm actually considering doing that, which means another slight weight drop, and just base it off of my max squat. Instead of pushing this thing the way that I always push it and loading, stacking as much weight on there. Remember, I was up to 630 for sets for a while back. But the range of motion was being compromised. I still got stronger from it. Got my deadlift back up over 600. But are we getting the best hypertrophy? Are we getting the best restorative effect? Everything else doing that? I don't know that we are. Check the ego. Okay, check the ego. We need to build quality muscle, particularly in our weakest links, if we want to get big maxes. We have to think in these terms. Okay. So we did the 5 sets of these. Gave me, technically 3 different posterior chain exercises today, not counting the speed pulls. A decent amount of squatting, but I've been pushing my sled more also, so that'll bridge the gap on the quads. And then, of course, I finished up with one really long set of abs. And I want to say, it was around 100 reps. I lost count. I don't know. It might have been 90, might have been 105. Who knows? You start losing count. I just did it until it burned. So took a blue band, put a towel over my shoulder so it doesn't dig in, and just did a set of standing band crunches until it burned. Yes, the reps are very high here, and that's okay. It's just finishing off the core, finishing off the abs, finishing off the obliques. And I tend to like to do standing stuff. It's usually what I prescribe, either hanging leg raises or standing movements. I'm a big fan of hanging leg raises, so I did those last time. I'll tend to always do both, but this is the sort of ab work I generally recommend. one of these two things. And I've covered a lot of reasons why I like the hanging leg raises. The standing ab work mainly just because if we want to think in terms of your abdominals and carryover for squatting and deadlifting, that's when we need our abs to be strongest, and we're standing. And so that's just a little bit of specificity, and it may not really matter that much at the end of the day. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.